Welcome, everybody. It is Thursday, April 22nd. Can you believe it? Almost the whole month of April has gone screaming by, and along with really nice warm temperatures in March to, a week filled with rain and then cold and snow. What else can we have? Well, hopefully we can look forward to more flowers growing, more trees budding and blooming, and the beauty that comes along with this crazy up and down weather that we're experiencing. I'm so glad that you're choosing to join us, whether it's right now at 10 o'clock for our Food for Thought event, or whether you're tuning in a little bit later. We're glad that you're taking the time to sit with us and enjoy some time together. My name is Gareth Houston, and with me here online is Sherry Schultz. She's part of our Seniors Ministry Leadership Team. Adam Knowles, he's our site pastor at the Kitchener site of WMB Church, and our guest speaker, Bonnie Sitter. We'll introduce her a little bit later on, but let me start off with a word of prayer, and then I'm going to hand it over to Sherry to have a brief devotional and then do the introduction. So join with me as we pray. Father God, I thank you so much for the gift of weather that changes, that in this beautiful country we live in, we know that there will be snow, there will be rain, and there will be everything in between. And we can rejoice in the changing of seasons, and especially rejoice in the beauty that comes when we see the earth coming back to life again in the spring. We ask for your blessing and your presence together with us as we listen to Bonnie and hear about some of what's happened in this area historically with the Farmerettes. Thanks to Lord for everybody that's watching this, and I pray your blessing upon them today and throughout this week. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen.
All right, Sherry, why don't you take it away?
Okay. Well, I have to tell you that it was about 6 to 8 weeks ago that Gareth asked for a volunteer to do this devotional, and I felt God give me a little nudge. So I've chosen Isaiah 61. I'm going to read verses 1 to 3, but verse 3 in particular is what I'd like to focus on. But it's been in my mind and my heart for years. We learned it when we were youth sponsors at a church that we were going to, and we were making banners with the youth group. And so it stays in my head as a song, which always helps. And it also helped me through on my own time of grief and mourning. And so I just thought we're all kind of going through some of our own mourning with people leaving the church right now for their own new adventures and with restrictions. So I just thought it's maybe apt to read today. So I'm going to read Psalm 61. Got it right here. I'm reading from the Living Bible. So verses 1 to 3. Isaiah 61. 1 to 3. The Spirit of the Lord God has anointed me to bring good news to the suffering and afflicted, kind of us. He has sent me to comfort the brokenhearted, to announce liberty to captives, and to open the eyes of the blind. He has sent me to tell those who mourn that the time of God's favor to them has come, and the day of his wrath to their enemies. To all who mourn in Israel, he will give beauty for ashes, joy instead of mourning, praise instead of heaviness, for God has planted them like strong and graceful oaks for his own glory. The version I learned was slightly different, and I'll use those words for what I'm doing here. So I thought it's really appropriate right now because of the things I just mentioned. But we've all lost things that we value in this time with family and friends, freedom to gather, to worship, to learn, to talk, and to enjoy ourselves together, even indoors. Actual physical hugs, freedom to travel, and just go about our daily errands without worrying, will we get pulled over, or will we, should we actually be out for that? And so, and some of us may have even lost friends or family or loved ones to this illness, or even just visiting time. Things are so restricted, we can't see our loved ones the same. So my heart goes out to all of you. And I have a neighbor who's been very affected. She's gone into a depression. She's on medication now. And I think as Christians, we have such hope and help through our relationship with the Lord. And we've got our Bibles for his word and promises. We can talk to him in prayer for everything. And we have a deep abiding joy that eases that pain and despair that could overwhelm us. So I really I really think it's made a difference. And we have praise and reason to praise for the spirit of heaviness. So I'll go through looking at verse 3 in more detail. He gives me beauty for ashes when everything seems dull and gray and lifeless, boring, the same, sad. We can do something about that, but the Lord gives us things around us to help us. And so that beauty for ashes, for me, I found it in autumn colors, the silhouettes of winter trees that you don't get to see when the leaves are on, the red flash and whistle of a cardinal, the smile of a child, especially a grandchild, new spring growth right now, especially sunrises that Gareth supplies lots of pictures of on his morning walks and his encouragements, sunsets, music, and so much more. You know what is beauty to you and to your eyes, to your soul. It's there for us to see and soak in, but we have to look and listen for it. And it's an action. So I try to, when I go out, look for things that will give that beauty. The oil of joy for mourning. I used to think of it only as the oil of joy instead of mourning, but I also realized that joy acts as a lubricant. It helps us get unstuck from just our sadness or self-pity or just no energy, no excitement to do anything. And it's a deep joy. It's not a happiness. It's not a surface thing. It's a deep joy that carries us through things. And for me, in my mourning, it was always there, even in the pain. It was always there, and I'm just so grateful for that. So it's almost like it's a tool to help you get through. And in Grief Share, we even talk about moving from mourning to joy, and so it's a continuum there. Just recently, I read about it in the terms of anointing aspect of the oil of joy, and we think of when Jesus was anointed and just the luxury of that and the gift of something very special, soothing, and precious, and it's being poured out over us. And into us. And so it eases pain and grief and suffering. And it's there, and it's just such a soothing thing to have and to think about. Then the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. And I have to tell you, I really felt a heaviness when we heard the latest lockdown restrictions and things and stay-at-home order. I didn't realize how much I'd been looking forward to spring and warmer weather and thinking, okay, now we've been doing outside gatherings, but we can have more of them and it'll be easier. And then they're saying kind of the numbers, and my family is 11 at least, and more with extended family. So that really did hit me again. And then I thought, okay, we can do this. We can stay at home. We have books, we have contact, we have technology. We can do this. So, I love that. And then I visualize the garment of praise as something that we have to put on, even as we fling off that heaviness. And it's an action, an attitude, a choice, an awareness, and it's a gift. And so to look around and be grateful for everything that we do have and can do, and to appreciate and to sing and voice praise. And music does really work in my life. The Lord knows how much I enjoy worship, church time, and CDs, anything. Just, it's amazing. And God gives us that ability and change of attitude and lifts our spirits, that we might be trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified. My Living Bible says strong and graceful oaks. And I think of us as aging in our seniors group here, mature trees. We can be an example, a source of strength, shade, or relief and comfort to help and encourage others around us for God's glory. And we can shine his light in our neighborhoods and families. I find I when I walk the dogs, they bring me in contact with a lot of people from a distance. And I really do feel as if God is using that and helping me to be an encouragement. And I hope that all of you will take that on as well. In Isaiah 35:10, it says, therefore the redeemed of the Lord shall return and come with singing unto Zion, and everlasting joy shall be upon their heads. So we can look to that and have that. And in Romans 15:13, may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing. So I pray for all of you. I think of you all so much that you will be those trees of righteousness and have beauty for ashes, oil of joy for mourning, garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. And now it's my honor and privilege to introduce Bonnie Sitter to you. She's our speaker this morning, and I consider her a friend. We met about 2.5 years ago when she contacted my mom about letters she had written for this book that it became a book through Bonnie and Shirley Ann. And just amazing person. We've had several interactions in person and through email. Bonnie has enriched my life with her books, her compassion, her enthusiasm, sense of humor, love of life. She has worked in the travel industry. She's an accomplished photographer, writer, and has many interests and projects on the go. And she's also contributed some of the humor to our seniors page. And so I think that she'll fit right in here. So Bonnie, welcome and do your thing. And it's so good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. I guess, do a screen share or anything else at this point, or can I just start talking? And
Sure, you can. It's up to you, whatever you would like to do. If you'd like to have something to share, that's great. If not,
okay.
Just go right into it.
Okay, that's what I'll do. Well, meeting Sherry's mother was a really big deal. In 1995, my co-author had put a little notice in papers all across Ontario saying, if you were a farmerette, get in touch with me. I'd like to write a story. And Artis, whose maiden name was Inkley, she responded and she wrote pages. And I thought, oh, I've got to find this woman. And I thought, well, she grew up in Clinton. You know, maybe somebody in Clinton can help me. And I don't have a lot of contacts in Clinton, but I couldn't find anybody that could help me. But I thought, well, I'm not going to stop there. So oddly enough, I started looking for obituaries that would have her name in it. And I found an obituary from one of Sherry's relatives up in the Owen Sound area. And I thought, oh my gosh, it says Artis Daniels in there. That's who I'm looking for. So I sent a message. I guess it was through the. No, I looked up in 411 to see the name of somebody that was in the obituary up that way, and I phoned and I didn't get a person at the other end, but I got a message machine and I said, I'm looking for Artis Daniels. If you know where she is, I would really love to speak with her. And lo and behold, a few weeks later, I got a call on a Sunday night from Artis, and she was just beaming and so excited as I was. I thought, oh, wow, Nancy Drew has succeeded. and what struck me the most was, her excitement, her enthusiasm. And she started to tell me the things that she had written in 1995. I mean, just an amazing memory. I mean, I don't think I've ever met anyone with a memory quite as spectacular as Artis. And maybe that's where Sherry gets her talents, from her mother. But I mean, it was almost word for word what she was saying. I can't even remember who I went to see GIT camp with. And here she's remembering the names of the people that she spent time with in 1945. So she and a girlfriend from Clinton enrolled in the Ontario Farm Service Force, and their destination was Cottam, Ontario. And she described the things just as she had described in the letter in 1995. So I'm going to read that letter to you now. I mean, Sherry's probably got it memorized just like her mother, but just an amazing memory. So here we go. So 1945, Cottam Camp. To be eligible for Ontario Farm Service, you had to have high marks enough to excuse you from final exams. This was an incentive to study if you really wanted to serve. I had 4 uncles in the war. As an only child, I was very much exposed to adults, and I think this made me sensitive to some of the problems of war, like absent sons on the farms. My parents worked hard for everything we had. At the time, we were comfortable, which would be regarded as poor now. Outfitting me for the summer was a burden. I was proud of the fact that I supported myself for almost 3 months without resorting to asking for donations. I turned 16 while at Cotton, cut my first wisdom tooth and tried smoking. One cigarette and I decided it wasn't for me. Smartest decision I ever made. We must have traveled by bus to Leamington, which we understood was our destination. There were camps at Kingsville and Cotton for girls, and Harrow and Leamington for the boys. The fact that we were to be stuck out in the sticks for the whole summer was a shock. Corona Wendorf was my friend from Clinton, and we were used to lack of excitement, so we adjusted easily. As near as I can remember, there were about 75 girls in the camp. At first, we modestly dressed and undressed under our nighties, but the fact that the hot water gave out quickly changed us. After 2 days, we dashed in the door, stripped on the way to the showers. Clothes were picked up on your way back to your bunk. It was fun. A group of farmers supported the camp. Each day, they would put in a request for X number of girls. We had a labor secretary who looked after the work arrangements. We weeded strawberries and raspberries, and then as the seasons came up, we picked the fruit, so at so much a quart. I'm ashamed to admit that I just made my quota in strawberries. To this day, I hate picking them. We carried bagged lunches. Each camper made her own lunch from an array of materials provided by the kitchen. Although these lunches were simply parked in the shade until lunch, I don't recall any sickness from botulism, etc. The camp was run by Ellie Thompson, our labor secretary. Miss Thompson, the camp mother, and the kitchen staff. Poor Miss Thompson used to wander about muttering, "Money, money," always going out, but never coming in. We paid board of about $5 a week, but her funds were likely barely sufficient. The girls did hand in their ration books as well, so the cook did have to juggle that part of it. Her pet remedy for anything was calamine. We used to sing the old camp song. The mother at this camp, they say, is mighty fine, but when you're sick and dying, she feeds you calamine. For the last 6 weeks of camp, a lot of us were put to work detasseling corn for hybrid corn. A truck picked us up each morning. We didn't go in for glamour. Everyone's nose was dabbed with Noxzema. You went along between 2 rows of female corn and pulled the tassels on each side. The plants were taller than we were, so we faced the sun all day. I remember having a distinctive tan, my bra straps and overall straps forming a pattern that was through a fleece long-sleeved t-shirt. We hitchhiked a lot. It was understood that you never traveled alone. Sometimes a truck would take us into Leamington to swim. We hitched to Windsor on occasion. We bowled a bit. To save money, we took turns being the pin boy. Swimming in Lake Erie was an experience. Even in 1945, there were dead fish floating about. We had grown up swimming in Lake Huron, so the warmer water in Erie was nice, but I never adjusted to bumping into dead fish. We had a camp council to keep us in order. There was a curfew and time for lights out. One night, Pee Wee Pagnini was caught talking after hours. Conversation went like this. "Pee Wee, you must pay a 25-cent fine." "Geez, guys, 30 cents. "Oh, you bums, 40 cents. I think it ended up at about 50 cents and she was grounded for a night. Somehow she obtained a can of white paint. We had 2 outhouses with partitions, and the next day they sported signs, library, nonfiction, history, etc. We loved Pee Wee. Our camp was surrounded by farmland, and cows roamed the field in front of the Johns. They were guarded by an electric fence, which sort of guarded us as well. If you came back to camp after hours, the best way in was through the cow pasture. So quite often you got shocked. Johnny Farkas drove the hybrid truck. He and I dated the last few weeks of camp. He came with a friend, Harvey, one night for a group fun night. One of the campers, Heisel, decided to take Harvey's car for a joyride. Pat Hill tried to stop her, but ended up with her, likely hoping to talk some sense into her. First we knew of it was when the police showed up at camp. The girls had smashed up in the ditch. The next day, Heisel was sitting in the lounge and heard Pat saying something, and she started to cry and said, "Oh, it's so good to hear her voice." There had been hot oil all over them in the accident, and she had heard one policeman remark, "I think this one's had it." He had mistook the oil for blood in the dark. There were girls from Timmins, Kirkland Lake, Hamilton, Toronto, Malvern Collegiate was well represented, Trenton, Belleville, Harrison, Stratford, Glencoe, Windsor, and of course, Corunna and I from Clinton. Mazel Minier from Timmins used to sing, "I'm just a prisoner of love." Sentimental Journey was a hit song. One of the girls from Windsor had a boyfriend who worked at a radio station. He made a record which started with, "Hello, you girls at Cottam Camp on this rainy, rainy day," and included opus number 1 and a medley of songs for our listening pleasure. On Victory over Japan Day, we convinced Ellie that we should have a holiday. I don't know what the rest of the camp did, but June Kettle, Doreen, Milford, Corunna, and I hitched to Detroit. We had 20 cents, 10 cents to go over and 10 cents to give them back, plus our bag lunches, which we ate sitting on the curb of the main street in Detroit. Mom was horrified because she expected us to be chaperoned. Can you imagine trying to chaperone that many girls? Toadie from Timmins was the only one I know who ran into any trouble hitching. She went alone, which was a no-no. There was a get-together of 4 area camps. I can't remember where it was held, but we traveled in the back of a truck, mainly standing. Each camp had a song, and ours was to the tune of Blow, Little Glowworm. We are the girls from Cottam chorus, and the farmers all adore us. We have just been through a charm school, and we'll probably hook some darn fool. We are the girls from Cottam Camp. Blow, little glowworm, blow. Some of the smokers had tried to set a trend by smoking corncob pipes at our camp. The Kingsville song was, "You can easily see we're not from Harrow because we don't wear BVDs. You can easily see we're not from Leamington because the Sea Cliff's not our dive. You can easily see we're not from Cottam because we don't smoke corncob pipes. We're just the sweet little girls without any curls. We're the Kingsville Farmerettes. We really mean it. We're the Kingsville Farmerettes." I can't remember how we did our regular washing. Hand laundry, I remember, but our overalls and stuff must have had to be done by machine. The fact that we had to buy our own shampoo, toothpaste, soap, and sanitary supplies made us more responsible than my girls were at 16. I'm sure it was a beneficial experience that kids from today's society would likely enjoy also. Hitching rides would be out, of course, so maybe it wouldn't work at all. It's a cinch that hard work and rules of conduct never hurt anybody. So thanks to Sherry's mom for that. I hope you enjoyed her letter. Again, a woman with a great memory, and we're sorry to lose her last December. So, Farmerettes, how on earth did I get interested in Farmerettes? I found a picture when I was going through my late husband's photo album, and I came across a picture of 3 girls sitting on the running board of a car. And I looked at them and I thought, nobody I've ever seen before. So I turned the picture over and it said Farmerettes about 1946. I thought, well, I should have asked Conrad about that. Of course, I left it too late. I didn't know about Farmerettes and he was dead. So I thought, well, I'll start doing research. So away I went. And I collected bits and pieces off the internet, and I discovered that nobody had really paid attention to the service that these young women had given. There was a novel written for teenagers about Farmerettes, but that was the extent of it. Excuse me. And then one day, my girlfriend from Blythe, Ontario, asked me what I was doing, and I said, I'm researching Farmerettes. She said, oh, would you like to talk to a real Farmerette? And I said, I sure would. She said, well, my mother was a Farmerette in 1946, and she lives in Godrich Place. So we arranged a meeting, and I interviewed her mother, and we discovered that the letters that she had written from the St. Catharines area to her parents in Toronto had been kept and given back to her. So her daughter found the letters. I got to read them all. And I mean, she wrote, maybe twice a week to her mother and father and told her what was going on at camp, whether, a girl lost her watch when she was picking spinach and they went through 60 bushels of spinach looking for the watch, just all kinds of interesting things. And it was a lot of fun reading the letters. So I knew that I was finding material, at least to write an article for a rural magazine, which I did. The editor sat on a while. She wasn't sure that this was something that people would be interested in, but then she had it in the magazine in June of 2018. And in August of 2018, a lady from London named Shirley Ann English had been handed the magazine through two other people. Read the magazine, pass it on, read the magazine, pass it on. And the one said, I think you said one day you were a farmerette. There's a story about farmerettes in here. She read it and discovered that she could have easily been my sister-in-law, because she worked on my in-laws' farm in 1952, the last year of the program, and she dated the man that became my brother-in-law. So she was really touched by the story, and she said she got quite teary-eyed because it brought back such great memories. And she said, it was the best summer of my life. And this woman is now 83, and she still says it was the best summer of her life. She wanted to go back the next year, but that was the last year of the program. And her father worked for the railway up in Northern Ontario, and they were moving along to another location for his work. So she didn't get to become my sister-in-law, but she got to be my co-author. So when I contacted her in London, she said, when she retired from working for the London Free Press, that she kept thinking about this wonderful summer she'd had. She thought I should write an article. So that's the article that requesting people to write to her, that artist wrote in reply. And then I discovered that she had received almost 300 letters from that request from women who said, send me the questionnaire. What do you want to know? Call me, I'd like to help. But there were a few, like artists, who actually wrote their memories. So I got the letters and I started reading them. And the ones that had no information went in one pile. The ones that had some nice tidbits in them went in another pile, and the complete letters went in another pile. And I began to find a few farmerettes. Some had been at the same address for 60 years. I got a lot of, sorry that, this number is no longer in service. But as soon as I reached out to ladies, I found a real joy in their voice that somebody was finally going to tell their story. So as we were working, I said to Shirley Ann, we're going to do this book in a year. The ladies whose stories are in here need to read their stories. They need to know that I was serious about producing a book. So away we went, looking for memorabilia, looking for farmerettes, and I continue today even reaching out and finding farmerettes and collecting their pictures. Farmerette in Ottawa, I found her last September, and she sent me her photos. She said rather than leave them to her kids, who would probably toss them because they meant nothing to them, she sent them to me in September, and unfortunately she died in October. But she did pass along her memories, which were great ones. She was a farmerette for 3 years, and after her first year at university, she became a labor secretary at one of the camps. It was at Camp Fenwick, and I had heard from a man in Coe Hill near Bancroft when the book first came out. He called me and he said, I'd like to order the book. I know my mother was a farmerette, but I don't know her story. He bought the book and he found his mother's story in the book. She had replied in 1995. And then when this lady from Ottawa said that she had been labor secretary at the camp in Fenwick in 1945, I got in touch with this gentleman again and said, guess what? I now have a picture of your mother with all the farmerettes at Camp Fenwick, because her labor secretary shared them with me. So some really amazing journeys have been created because of finding that picture. So if you can share the screen with me, I'm going to show you some pictures, and I'll talk about some of the pictures. Do you know how to do that?
Okay, on your computer there at the bottom, there should be a green button that says share screen.
There it is. Got it. I had it down too far. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to do share, I guess. And then I'm going to go up here. Where did that go? Now you see all the stuff I collect on my screen. I'm working on a really big project at the moment. Oh, I can't find it. It's hidden behind the black thing at the top of my. Oh, there it is. Move it. Okay, there we go. Slideshow.
Play from the beginning.
There we are. Play from start. There we go.
There we go.
Okay, now I'll move this off the screen somewhere. Can I? Are you getting that green strip across as well?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Okay, must be just me. So this is the cover of my book, Onion Skins and Peach Fuzz. And these girls were at the very first Farmerette camp. Barbara Murray, who's second from the left, is alive and living in Fort Frances. And she just had her 96th birthday last December. And her husband, who was in the Air Force, is alive, and he was 100 on February the 20th.
Wow.
So these girls, in front of their tent, the tent had cots for 4 girls, and the big bag that you see them with their feet resting on, that was the mattress that came in a bag that, you broke open the bag and the mattress rolled out. And you can see the springs that went on the cot as well. Finding Barbara Murray was a huge challenge. She had written a short story about being a farmerette when the retired teachers of Ontario had asked for submissions for Remembrance Day. The retired teachers, however, wouldn't tell me whether she was alive or if she was dead. I said, well, how be you contact her? They didn't say she was, dead, don't waste your time. So I said, how be you contact her and tell her I would like to speak with her? And they wouldn't do that either. But I didn't give up. I searched and searched. And one day doing research, I found a story in a Northern Ontario newspaper and had the name Barbara Murray. And I thought, I'll bet that's her. And so I got in touch with the editor of the newspaper and I said, would you be interested in helping me find this lady that was in your newspaper? She said, I think I can help. And she did. And what we discovered was there was 2 ladies by the same name living in Fort Frances on the same street. And the first one I contacted, she said, she knew nothing about what I was talking about. But anyway, that's how we got Barbara Murray and got her picture on the front cover. And she was just so excited that she was going to be on the cover. Okay, now why won't it move? Oh, there it is. You have to be patient. So these are the 3 girls that started the journey on the Farmerette story. And I keep hoping that as this picture is circulated, that somebody will say, yes, that looks like my aunt. I know who it is. You can see the badge on the one girl's bib overalls. They were encouraged to wear straw hats in the fields and bandanas when they were picking fruit. This is the badge that the girls were given in the early years. I don't know so much that they were given after the war ended, but this is the badge they were encouraged to sew on their bib overalls. So here we have 2 girls. They were best friends, Inga Oswald and Nora Cumberland. Inga actually married Nora's brother. And this picture is in the display at Juno Beach Museum in France, in a display or exhibit that great women of World War II. And Inga had submitted her cap and a few items to the War Museum along with this picture, and that's why she was chosen, because the War Museum did have some materials. So I did a lot of research on this one as well. I did find through death notices that Inga's nieces lived in the Toronto area, and I finally found one out in British Columbia. And I said, I really searched long and hard for you because I wanted to let you know about your mother being in this exhibit at Juno Beach. And she had plans last year to go to see this exhibit, of course, and that all fell through because of COVID. But she was very grateful that I had found her. So you can tell why this young man is doing all the smiling. He's got a lot of beautiful farmerettes around him. This is at Camp Thedford, camp number 6. Locally, the girls were not necessarily called farmerettes. They were often called camp girls, but lots of smiles there. And it looks like the labor secretary's there. She's got her whistle and she's got her Farmerette Brigade badge sewn on her shirt, and it looks like she's got a clipboard. So artists mentioned how many girls were, signing up and where they were coming from. As you can see on the slide, it tells you 16 students from Delta Collegiate Hamilton, 4 from Milton signed up to become farmerettes at Larkin Farm, Queenston, Ontario. So the newspapers played a big part in recruiting girls. Lots of ads, lots of pictures of girls signing up and doing their bit. So the girls on the left, they've got their harnesses on. They would clip that harness in the front and put the fruit baskets on and go up the trees to pick the fruit. They like to roll up their pant legs as high as they could get them so they could go home with a tan. The sisters on the right, often a jug of water was dug into the ground to keep it cool, and it was just passed around. Nobody was worried about germs. Totally different world from what we're experiencing now. These 2 girls were from Clinton, and they were acquaintances of artists. So this picture I'm putting in, the girls taking a bit of a rest on their lunch break. And it was a photographer from a Montreal magazine that took this picture. And the girl on the right, Edna Hawkins, was a farmerette at the Shank Farm in the early 1940s. And I had put a little article in Our Canada magazine. She read it. She got in touch with me, wrote her story, got it to me in time to be in the book. And she didn't send me this picture. Barbara Murray had this picture, the lady in Fort Frances. And when Edna got the book, she had her daughter phone me. I'm going to sneeze. Oh, sorry. She said, "Oh, email Bonnie quick." She said, "Tell her I'm the girl in the hay on the top corner of page 19. She was so excited to be in the book. Not only her letter, but her picture showed up as well. So these girls, few of them are from, 3 of them are from Clinton, Ontario. The year is 1946. And the girl second, or in the middle, in the back row, she convinced another girl to go again the next year because she had met a young man and while she was working at the farm, and she did go back and they eventually married. So this is the fire escape at Thedford. And the girls would leave the door open a crack if there was somebody coming home late after curfew, and they would sneak up the stairs and get into the camp that way. And there's a few stories in the book about that. The book actually has more than, I think, 50 personal stories and essays written by farmerettes. So where did the girls live beside the tents? Sometimes they lived in converted grist mills, sometimes in high school gymnasiums, sometimes in motels that weren't being used, anywhere they could find accommodation. So personal space was pretty limited. You can see the clothes hanging up from the basketball rack, suitcases under beds. Lots of suitcases were on the beds during the day. One girl said if you had a lower bunk, other people's junk tended to accumulate on your bed. So the girls had fun. Here, a gentleman was chosen to be Mr. Farmerettes. Mr. Farmer, chosen by the Farmerettes at a Lincoln County picnic. And the qualifications to be the winner, I think he's got a straw hat on there. If you're wondering what all that strange hair is, I think it's a straw hat. The size of his feet, the calluses on his hand, and his tan. This is a gentleman that won for all those reasons. So off to church, the girls were encouraged to bring their Sunday clothes, and sometimes they hitchhiked to church, sometimes they walked. And these two girls even have their white gloves on. Remember when we wore white gloves to Sunday school and church? On the right, Darcy Crop was a big name in the Niagara area. There's a street named after this gentleman. He had a lot of orchards. He also had canning factories. And when there wasn't field or orchard work, the girls were sent into the canning factories. And the way they determined if the girls were working or not was they had a tin can and they put the peach pits in the tin can. So here we are, the girls with their peaches lined up and probably having their lunch or having a peach break. Celery fields in the Thedford Bog. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but at one time, celery was a really big vegetable being grown in Thedford. You see some young boys there. I met a man from Park Hill. He said he remembers farmers coming over to Park Hill, which is not that many miles from Thedford, but rounding up boys that were 11, 12, 13 years of age, bringing them back to help in the celery fields at Thedford. And this is what the camp looked like at Thedford. It was a grist mill that was converted. The girls slept upstairs, which must have been mighty hot in the summertime. The dining room and recreation area and kitchen all on the main floor. These Japanese young ladies had been relocated to St. Catharines area when the Japanese internment happened. And the girls from Clinton worked with them, and they were very fond of these girls. They took pictures of them. And, there was a language barrier, but they overcame that. So they were happy that these girls were working with them. Again, some more fun. Thedford Pennant. Again, we don't know the names of any of these people. Just that they were at the Thedford camp and it looked like a date night. So there you can see the harness hanging, or holding the basket for the peaches. So this is a really awful picture of the Clinton Farmerettes, but they had written a story to the paper, which is quite clear and is in the book. This picture isn't in the book. But they said that they would be sending a picture along. So I think it was, a Sunday off to church picture. They all lined up and their names are all listed. But even the newspaper, researching with them, could not give me a better picture than this. But I thought it was nice. They were all dressed up for church. And, the paper did get it at the end of the summer. But they can't give me a better image. So we know that it doesn't take two girls to milk a cow. So this was a promotional picture, I'm sure, in the newspaper. There was opportunities for the girls to work in dairy and poultry as well, but not to the extent of the orchards and the market garden farms. So why on earth do I have this in my Farmerette story? Well, the girls rode around the farms quite often in what they called doodlebugs. And there was a conversion made in the United States for farmers to modify their Model A or Model T cars and make them into farm vehicles. So men from Aurelia went down into Rockford, Illinois, and said, we want to be able to make this conversion kit in Canada. And they said, buy one and copy it. So the company never did pay royalties for using this. And it was quite a big deal. So I'm going to show you what this doodlebug was nicknamed the hearse. But that's what happened to a Model T Ford or a Model A Ford. That was what the conversion looked like. So my husband's grandfather, Grandpa Sitter with the Farmerettes, the one Farmerette wrote to us and said, Grandpa Sitter kept the hose sharp, and that made our job a lot easier. And there's girls showing off their tans. Roll those pant legs up as high as they could get. So John was popular. He had a roadster. He had a rumble seat. And, Audrey Middleton on the right, she's the one that supplied the picture for the roadster. And you can see what their fire escape looked like. It was a wooden ladder attached to the building. So this was the beginning of outdoor furniture. Take the Chesterfield outside and relax in your off hours. Girls arriving by train at the Thedford camp. You can see there's people on the train, people getting off, and you see a few servicemen's hats there. So this was the early days at Thedford Station. This is actually a photo from Artis, and you can see where the library that she talked about in her letter is painted on that outhouse. So obviously the girls are having a bit of fun and lots of giggles. So although it didn't make it into the book, the quality was just so poor, but I couldn't help but show it to you today. So the girls not only planted, hoed, they harvested, and then in this case, they got to go to the St. Catharines Farmers Market. 1941, you can see Barbara Murray, second from the right, and you see Mr. Shank, the owner of the farm where they worked. They obviously had a good relationship if they had been invited to go to market and help sell the produce. And look at the size of those cauliflowers. So the girls did their personal laundry, and it was worth taking a picture to let the parents know, I guess, that really they were learning how to be, concerned about doing laundry, since they weren't learning to cook, but they were learning how to do their laundry. So morning again, often the girls rode on the back of a truck. Sometimes the sides would be up and they would be standing up, hanging onto the sides. They just anything that you could climb onto. That's how they got to the farms and back. So again, a newspaper item that I came across, and some of the girls, it says here, well, it's Jill's third season as a farmerette. It's the first experience for the other three. And it was through a newspaper article like this that I discovered that a lady in London I found is actually in the book 3 times. And of course, she didn't know and didn't know enough to write a letter in 1995, but we found pictures of her through other people. Eileen Hamilton and her girlfriend rode their bicycles out of Toronto to the Toronto airport area every Monday morning, and they lived in this little trailer. They ate their meals and had bathroom facilities in the farmer's house, and then they rode their bikes back on Friday night back into the city. Quite a remarkable story. And I got to meet her when I did a presentation in Woodstock, and she came across this picture and sent it to me. It's not in the book. It's one of the ones that came later. So again, Conrad's grandpa always had the same hat, same tie, and same vest on. And you can see he's standing there with 8 farmerettes. Quite often, if the farmerettes and the farmers got along really well, they would keep the same girls for the entire season. Moyers Camp is where Artis Daniels went her second year. This is not Artis, but this is a picture of another girl that was at Moyers Camp with the friendly dog. So you think, why on earth have I got motorcycle pictures in? Well, Joe Gibson, who's in the middle of the pack, they had a group called the Clattering Pistons, and they bought 1943 war surplus Harley Davidson motorcycles. And Joe got a call from Isabel. She was his girlfriend. She was lonesome. So he rode his motorcycle down, and the other girls were quite jealous. They said, well, do you have any friends with motorcycles that can come next time? And he said, yes, in fact, I do. So Joe brought the friends the next time, so the girls were happy. They all went to places like Niagara Falls and Crystal Beach, things like that. The motorcycle cap is still around. It's kind of falling apart, but there it is. There's the Niagara Falls pin that he bought that time. And Joe died October the 20th last year. He was 93. Isabel is still well and lives in still on the farm outside of Clinton. And this is the picture that Isabel among the hollyhocks. It is still in the upside, the inner part of the cap where the motorcycle rider would normally keep his license. That picture was there from the time he started dating Isabel and remains there. So lots of love stories in the book. These girls are having to replant because a frost destroyed the first seedlings. And these are the girls doing labor secretary work. The labor secretary arranged with the farmers how many girls he needed for how many days or whatever. And she was in charge of looking after the hours and making up the pay packets for the girls at the end of the week. Every Friday night, they paid their board from their pay packets. So this is what you would see in the newspaper. Young women 16 to 21 for cherry, strawberry, raspberry picking. Good meals, good pay, good fun. When the girls first started, the backs felt like they were breaking. They would never stand up straight again. But they soon got used to the tough work and went on to have some good fun. The camaraderie was amazing. So these girls, Barbara Murray, again, from second from the right, she had a lot of pictures, and they are standing in front of Niagara Falls. You can't really see it, but that was a must. If you had a camera or had a girlfriend at camp with a camera, you got a picture of yourself with Niagara Falls. Main floor at Thedford Camp, you can see the dining tables. And if you look to the right, you can see through where the food was passed through into the kitchen. There's a better picture of, they had not only the stairs, but they added a ladder to their escape. And that's how crowded it was upstairs at Thedford. Some years there would be 100 girls in those beds looking for a place to, hang their clothes and get their personal things. And there you can see it was a grist mill. The old mill, a big grist wheel is there. Again, pictures we don't know who they are. This picture is kind of fun. It's in the book, and Farmerette, who lives in Listowel, is 90 plus. She called me one day after she got her book and said, I can tell you who those girls are. She said, I remember them. They were from Sarnia. They were at the A.W. Smith farm with me. And A.W. Smith was a brother of E.D. Smith, who many have heard of, I'm sure. If you like jam at all, you'll know that name. So they would often have a group picture taken. This was sent by a lady who lives in Elliott Lake. She read about the project through the magazine Our Canada as well. And she got most of the autographs on the back, but we have no idea who's who and who's where. It doesn't say left to right, first row. So off to work, tractor pulling the flatbed. You can see the girls sitting any which way. One girl said the best place to ride was, if you were going in a doodlebug or a farm truck, was to sit on the fender and wrap your legs around the headlight. That was the most fun. So Ipperwash Beach, the girls sometimes at the Thedford camp would be able to get to the beach by hitchhiking, and sometimes the farmer would have enough gas ration coupons to take a load, and they could wash the grime of the dirt off that they had accumulated in the peppermint fields and the onion fields, and they got to enjoy the beach. So there we are, the Farmerette uniform. Barbara Murray on the left, this was her picture. She had taken her two girlfriends home with her. She was 15 at the time. You were supposed to be 16, but her father worked for the Department of Agriculture And he said, I think this would be good for you. So he signed her up, and away she went. And she went 2 years. She did enjoy it. So you can see the patriotic flags in front of her home, and the girls posing for their uniform picture. So this was the badge that they were given, and they wore this on their cap, the Horn of Plenty. There they go. That was the color of the uniform. So lots of the girls talked about the outhouses, and the largest one we discovered had 9 holes. So that is the beginning of when women are at a reception or a wedding reception or whatever, and one says, "Who wants to go to the bathroom with me?" This is where it started. 9 hole, or the next biggest was 7. So there you are. This the lady from Listowel shared this picture, and they had their outhouses named after famous hotels. So they didn't say they were going to the John; they said they were going to the Royal York. And obviously outhouses were a big part of the fun, because here we have 2 girls on top of an outhouse. See the roll of toilet paper in there. So that's how compact the tents were. Suitcases and shoes kept under the bed. Not a lot of room. But never did anybody really complain about the food at camp or about the accommodation. The camaraderie took over, and the hard work. They sang, they made up songs, as you heard in Artist's letter, camp songs about where they were working, and music and talking about movies. All those things were fun. So here's Darcy Kropp with Grapes Galore, and he's really well remembered in the book. And that was his canning company, and the brand was called Illumination Peaches. One of the girls actually saved a label. So Aunt Carrie even got into the picture. She's out there checking on the girls. They did keep an eye on the girls, making sure they were treated well. And often the Japanese boys at the one camp, they moved the ladders for the girls. You can see here this girl's moving her own ladder. Time out for swimming in Lake Ontario. And these girls the 3 were from Kitchener at the time. The Nissen hut was another type of accommodation. And they named their places Bum's Boudoir. The tent on the cover of the book was Joyful Junk House. Looks like asparagus. That you see the knives and they had a special way they had to cut them, and they had to be like 6 inches long and be packed a certain way for market. They've got their bandanas on, protecting their ears. Peach harvest. The one man looks really grumpy, doesn't he? So the girl on the back of the horse is from Clinton, and her sister is at her left knee. Both have deceased. My relatives, my father-in-law, his nephew, and his son, the son that Shirley Ann dated. This is the peppermint still. You see the big lid was on a pulley, and it was clamped down, and it was distilled. He had a license to operate the still, and the peppermint oil was sold to the Wrigley's company in Toronto. This SS Cayuga traveled from Toronto over to Port Dalhousie, and some of the girls would arrive by train in Toronto, and then they would take the Cayuga over to get to the Niagara area. I think the fare at the time was about $1 each way. Occasionally, girls that had enough money and had lived in Toronto paid the $1 each way and went home for the weekend. So there's cutting asparagus and breaking your back at the same time. And they are all posed on ladders in this picture in the orchard. They're not actually standing on anybody's shoulders. Spare time, reading, knitting, writing letters. some girls at the Cottam camp, not at the same time that Artist was there, but they decided that they would write letters to boys over in Europe. They were still in the service. And all these letters started coming back, and the postmaster was pretty curious about what this was all about. And these girls were writing letters and saying, oh yeah, I work in a bank, I'm a nurse, I'm a secretary, I've got blonde hair, just anything to make the boys' life interesting, I guess. Anyway, the house mother put a stop to it. She said, you can't do that. So end of that fun. So that's what the Celery Gardens looked like in 1942 in Thedford. Row after row after row. Doing hand laundry. So, you know, you did your laundry in the tubs, and then you had a bath in the tubs. So I think these girls have candy cigarettes. I know Alan Donald probably didn't, but I think it's their lunch break for this picture. The one girl's got her lunch bucket. And the Shale Ridge Winery in Thedford has come up with a Farmerette Rosé, and they've used this picture on their label. This was a publication put out by the Ontario Farm Service Force, and this is where we got the camp songs from this publication. A lady in Listowel had saved a copy. And these girls are not obviously going to work. They've got their saddle shoes on, and they're off to a wiener roast. So Miss Lincoln County was crowned in 1946, a lovely girl from Kapuskasing. The lady in Goderich, who is the mother of my friend, she had told me about this event. She said, I had bought a dress for my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary. I loaned it to her for that day. Other girls loaned jewelry or shoes or whatever. We really wanted her to win, and win she did. Her prize was a bouquet of glads and a bathing suit. And I found this in the Flesherton newspaper, which is nowhere near Lincoln County. Just, you know, the luck of the draw when I was doing research. And I recognized it because of the fact that the farmerette had told me that she had loaned her dress. So the farmerettes were given a certificate for meritorious contribution during the war years. Margaret Dunbar sent this in. It was a photocopy of a photocopy. That's the only one we received, so it is in the book. This is from TV Ontario. They had done the National Film Board. This is what baskets of cherries would have looked like. Even swimming in the lake didn't get rid of the peach fuzz. The peaches were really fuzzy in those days, and the girls got terrible rashes on their arms and around their neck, and they said even, you know, going swimming didn't remove it. Some girls actually had to go to the doctor and get a salve and had to be sent home. So there's the wiener roast. Girls joined local baseball teams and participated with a bit of exercise and fun. The growers had a picnic at Huttonville every year. Each girl seems to have a Coke bottle in front of her, so that must have been the popular drink of the day. One farmerette stated in her letter that the house mother said, carry an empty Coke bottle with you. If anybody gives you trouble, bop them over the head with the Coke bottle. Onion skins, the dust that flew when the onions were rubbed against the sieve to get rid of the soil and outer skins. The dust from the peach fuzz was up your nose, in your ears, down your blouse. It was a dirty job. If you worked at the Sitter farm, you either came home smelling like onions or peppermint. They knew where you had been working. They went swimming in the Welland Canal, if you can imagine, 50 feet deep. It was forbidden, but that didn't stop the girls. One girl said she learned a lot of new strokes that year. Mail was important. Getting and sending mail was a really important thing to the girls. And here's those wash tubs being used as bathtubs. And the only one we know is Helen Aiken in the back. It was her picture she shared with us. This is what Niagara Falls looked like when the farmerettes were working in that area. See all the old cars, not quite the commercial scene that you see these days. This painting was done by a farmerette. She's 90 plus. She lives up in the Buckhorn area. She and her girlfriend went from Aurora to the Camp Thetford in 1946. She recalled working beside the prisoners of war. And in later years, she painted, this is an oil painting. It's in a gallery in Buckhorn. And she said, I changed myself a little bit. She's the one on the left. She said, I didn't want people to know that I had painted myself. But she had fond memories of being at Thetford in 1946. So here we are. That's Gwen Phillips with the piles of onions that are drying in the field. And we have come to the end. And I've got to tell you a funny story about this. London Heritage Committee had us do a presentation in February of 2019. And some gentlemen who had served in World War II and were in the age range of 95 receiving a special pin stayed on and sat through this show. And I wish I would have taken his name. One of the veterans at the very end, when this came on the screen, he shouted out, I remember the one in the middle. So he had a really good sense of humor. So it was a lot of fun. So I've come to the end. If there's any questions I can answer, I'd be pleased to do that.
Well, we did have a question come in from Dave Hoffman, wondering, was this an Ontario program or was it a federal program?
The federal government was involved to a certain extent, but it was mostly Ontario. There was a few farmerettes out in British Columbia picking fruit, but it was Ontario, and about 20,000 girls went through this program.
Wow.
And because what they did didn't make a loud noise and go bang or whatever, they were pretty much ignored for their service. I've written to the post office saying, I mean, we've got desserts and flowers and all kinds of things on stamps. Why don't we have a stamp to honor the farmerettes? And I haven't gotten anywhere with that, but I haven't given up. But the land girls in England, they didn't volunteer I mean, some could have, but they didn't volunteer like the girls in Ontario. Right. And not that many years ago, they finally put up a monument to recognize their service, the land girls. So, still could happen here. I don't give up easily.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Oh, I've got to tell you, I got to read you a cute little story. A lady called me in December of 2019. And she said, I have your book. She said, I'm the girl that married the farmer. Page 35. Marjorie Cuthbert Lister was at Huttonville Camp in 1948 and 49. She says, I was one of the lucky girls who got to stay and marry my farmer. We wed October 29, 49, after the crops were all in. And so, just fun things like that. I never know, what an email or a phone call is going to bring me. I talked to a farmerette, a girlfriend of hers in Kingston, read about my latest book, On the Right Track, Memories from CPR School Car Number 2. And she called and she ordered a book for herself. And she said, I want your farmerette book for my girlfriend in Burlington. So when the lady in Burlington got it, she was just over the moon excited. She said, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. And then I said, well, where did you live before you were, when you were when you came down to be a farmerette? She said, well, I was born and raised in Foleyette. I said, Foleyette? I said, that's the end of the line where the book I'm writing now about the Sloman family and their school car, it went from Capriol to Foleyette. She said, oh, Mr. Sloman. She said, I remember him. I went to school in Foleyette, a very small place. But she said one time when the school car was parked at Foleyette, or the end of the line, that's where it turned around. She said, Mr. Sloman invited me into his school car. And she said, he was a friend of my father and the doctor, Dr. Rudd in town. And she said, when I was 8 years old, Mr. Sloman called me and said, Margaret, are you in your pajamas yet? Well, if not, get in your pajamas and get into bed. I've got the reindeer's antlers untangled from the wire, and I'm going to be there shortly, but I can't come till you're in bed asleep. And all of a sudden, we went from Farmerettes to the book I'm doing now. So lots of fun. Anyway, I've passed my time.
Well, thanks for sharing with us. Those are such great stories. I just think of Sherry's devotional talking about, joy and just how that comes in, and what a story of so much joy in the midst of hard work, joy during a time of war, and so many of those pictures, right? Just demonstrating, just an exuberance for life and a willingness to like quite literally dig in, and brings a lot of laughter, a lot of joy to us now. I'm so glad that you've captured these moments in stories. The songs, the songs had me howling.
And the girls, did talk about joining church choirs for the summer, and things like that. It's just so many aspects are brought in their stories. I mean, a lot of them have similar things. I signed up, I did this, I did whatever, but they all are unique and they're all important.
And even just like you said, taking on hard physical daily grind labor, and you just have to wonder how much that also just prepared them for the rest of their lives, right? Exactly.
One girl said when she was having her physical to go into nursing, the doctor was just amazed at the muscles in her back and called in the other people in the doctor's office to come and see her back. And they went bare feet. She said, and Shirley Ann said when she went home, she said, I was going around my bare feet. My mother was saying, what are you doing? But their feet toughened up. They worked in the fields in their bare feet quite often. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just, there's over 50 personal stories. There's 200 black and white photos. I've really been blessed to be a part of it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's proven to be a bestseller. It's the fact that it's being made into a play. I'm really happy about that. Fourth Line Theatre in Peterborough, without even reading the book, they decided they wanted it. It's an outdoor theater there. And they're in negotiations now to see if maybe Blythe can get it on the stage sooner than they can because of this year being locked down again. They've missed 2 summers of theater there. And she said, 2024 is the earliest we can do it. And she knows time is running out for these ladies that are left who really want to see it. So,
yeah.
I think, Bonnie, you mentioned how you wanted to get it done. And it meant so much to Mom. Because these ladies, Mom was 91, and she passed away in December, 91 and a half. And I remember you had a picture you showed me that of a daughter saying, with a picture of her mom having read it, and then she passed away 2 weeks later. But she was sitting there enjoying and going over all those amazing memories. So thanks for doing that for them. It meant so much to them. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, she was in palliative care, but she got out of bed and she went through the entire book again. She had read it a number of times, but one more time. Yeah, it was really touching. Yeah.
Well, we are so very thankful that you spent this time together with us this morning. Mm-hmm. It's a pleasure to meet you, at least visually, if not in person. And we just wish you the best as you continue to encourage people through a look back at history. Yeah. Where is your book available?
I have them, and I could connect with Sherry if people would like to order them. It's hardcover. I had, people sort of think of the price of $49 as a lot, but when you think that you sometimes spend 6 and 7 on a card, it's not a lot. True. It's a real look at Ontario. Rural history, agriculture history, war history, and anyway, I'd be happy to take orders. I accept checks and e-transfers. And it's about time Sherry and I met at Stratford at Tim Hortons and did a distance trade. So I'm really thankful that through her mom that I've been able to connect with Sherry. We have a lot of connection, I think.
Yeah. Would it be all right with this video underneath to just ask people to get in touch with me, or I will connect them to you for the book?
Sure.
I don't want to put your personal information on the web.
No, that's fine. It's there everywhere anyway.
Okay. All right.
My phone number, my email. I'm happy to talk to people, and maybe there's more people out there that would be interested in having the program for their organization.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm happy to do that. As you can see, I'm quite passionate about it.
Yes, you are, and that's a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we thank you so much for that. We will make sure that people have access to how to get in touch with you to get a book, and we just wish you God's best as you carry that enthusiasm to tell people's stories, because it's a part of what makes us. As we age, the part of that makes us who we are is being able to reflect and remember and tell another generation about what happened when we were young.
Yeah. If I hadn't found the picture, this would have been all lost. So right place, the right time, right?
Providential.
Yeah. So thanks for the invitation and the opportunity. Thank you, Sherry, for making this happen.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate it.
All right. Adam, why don't you close us off?
Yeah. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time together this morning. We thank you, Lord, just for your active presence in our lives, and God, the ability to share the stories of our lives with one another, to be encouraged to experience the joy of those that have gone before us, even. And when we hear their stories, when we hear of your goodness, and when we come to know others better. So we thank you for the passion that you've instilled in Bonnie, for the way that you brought a picture to spark a story, to spark a remembrance, and to share with others, to multiply the joy that has been experienced. And Lord, we just thank you for your favor. And God, we ask you to be with each of us as we go. We thank you for this time of remembrance. And Lord, would it just fill us up again as we continue, Lord, to seek community, to seek to encourage one another, and to be with one another during this pandemic. God, we thank you for this joy for this day. And God, we continue to look to you each day to fill us anew. Thank you, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.